A quick thanks to NOMOS for sponsoring this video.
Today we have a $60 cashmere sweater and a $2,250 cashmere sweater. That sounds so stupid to say out loud.
So I've always wanted a cashmere sweater, but could never quite justify it living in hot and humid Texas. It wasn't until only a few years ago when I found a brand called Naadam selling them at $75 was I able to pull the trigger. My first thought was, this is just another brand trying to take advantage of their customers by making a sweater with 1% cashmere and 99% wool, but to my surprise it was actually 100% Mongolian cashmere. In recent years, I've noticed cashmere sweaters become more and more accessible. So, in this video, I figured I'd test 4 cashmere sweaters at various price points to see if it's a you get what you pay for kind of item, or if this is an area where you can save some cash and be fine. There were some surprising results as we moved up, but more on that later. If you enjoy content like this, nothing helps the channel more than hitting that subscribe button. Side note, I picked up this Fuji a few months ago and have been shooting on it non-stop, so drop a visit to the IG to join the conversation there. I'll have it linked below. So, what makes cashmere so unique and so expensive? Cashmere is grown by goats from countries which have insanely rough winters. The goats in these environments grow a double layer of fur, with cashmere coming from the super soft and super warm bottom layer. While a sheep can grow 7 pounds of the top layer in a year, it can only grow half a pound of the cashmere one. It takes the full undercoats of 4 goats to produce one sweater, hence the price being so high. However, after all that work, you're left with one of the finest, softest, and fluffiest yarns on the earth, giving you a very warm sweater without being too bulky. As usual, we'll start with the cheapest and work our way up. This is from a brand called Quince and it comes in at $59. Quince, like many others, claims it can get this price so low because of their direct-to-consumer model, but there's no way cashmere can be this cheap without a catch, right? Well, let's dig into different levels of cashmere. Typically, when we see cashmere at this price point, it's a blend of cashmere and another fabric, but in this case, it's 100% cashmere, so no corners cut there. The next thing we want to look at is the grade. Grades are dependent on the width of the fibers, and ironically, the thinner the fibers, the higher the grade. So grade A will be the best, and grade C will be the worst. Quince is a grade A, so no corners cut there either. Next we want to look at fiber length. The length will determine how long the sweater will last. If a sweater is made of longer and narrower fibers, it will last you ages, but if they're shorter and wider, it will pill up and not last as long. An easy way to check for this is by stretching the sweater. If when you stretch it and it springs back to its original shape, then it's of a higher quality, longer length. Alright, now that we know more than we ever needed to on cashmere sweaters, let's talk about the pieces themselves. This one is from Quince in a really pretty burgundy colorway in a size medium. I'm about 5'10 and 175 pounds for reference. While Naadam was known for their $75 cashmere sweater, Quince swooped in recently and undercut them by $15 to compete. The fit on this sweater is true to size. It's pretty fitted in the shoulders and upper chest, but tapers off nicely to leave room in the stomach. The length landed right at mid-crotch. The sweater is low profile enough to layer with a jacket, but still shines when wearing it on its own. The neckline is fairly high, giving it a smarter, more sophisticated look, and the sleeves landed perfectly at the end of my wrist. We've touched on the fabric a tad, but it's super soft in hand. Quince claims it's 100% grade A Mongolian cashmere, woven in a tight 12-gauge weave, making it ideal for year-round wear. This fabric does feel the thinnest of the lot, but it isn't a bad thing as it allows for wear during warmer weather, but you may need additional layers on chillier days. The longer the fibers that make up the yarn, the less likely it is to pill, but the more expensive it is. So what some companies do is use a mix of short and long fibers to make their cashmere yarn, which allows them to drive their costs down significantly. The large deviation from the length of the longest and the length of the shortest fiber in the yarn is the primary reason why pilling occurs, as the shorter fibers get pulled out when they're snagged or they're in an area of high rubbing, forming those pills. Quince doesn't disclose fiber length, so I feel as if this may be a place where they cut some corners. So I did find the first signs of pilling on this sweater as I was finishing the edit on this video. This was right underneath the armpit area, and so what I did was I ended up buying a cashmere brush off Amazon. It was pretty cheap, but it got this thing looking as good as new. I'll have it linked below if you need it, but I just wanted to give you a quick update. In terms of construction, there's not much to talk about for cashmere sweaters in general. This is made in China with Mongolian cashmere, and I can't find any flaws or signs of low quality construction. Something to note are how the collars are constructed and the ribbing on the wrist and the bottom hem. While I prefer a tighter, more pronounced cuff, the ones here are pretty seamless from the rest of the garment. They don't feel tighter or looser, but more of an extension of the rest of the sleeves. Similar things can be said about the bottom hem, and the neckline is fairly simple. The sweater comes in 7 different colors, majority of which are neutrals. Sizes are limited, ranging from small to extra large.
So Quince has come out pretty strong with this first one at $60. This may be one of the better entry-level pieces we've had on the channel. If it holds up, the rest might have pretty decent competition, especially at this price point.
Next up, we have Naadam. Naadam really kicked this whole revolution off with their $75 cashmere sweater. It became super popular, super fast, as the company touted their sustainable practices and competitive prices. I remember cashmere being such an unattainable item in college before I came across Naadam. I was hesitant to buy it online at the time, expecting it to feel like a scratchy wool sweater at that price, but on a trip to New York, walking through Soho, I came across their shop and walked out with my first piece of cashmere. I've worn it for about 5 years now and got it in this heather gray colorway in a size medium. The fit on this sweater is slightly looser than that of Quince's. It's about the same in the stomach region, but it's looser in the shoulders, arms, and chest. The length is also a touch longer, landing in the mid to lower crotch. I like the fit personally, as it makes for a slightly more casual look, but if you don't fill out your clothes normally, this may be something to note. The fabric itself may be a touch softer than Quince's, but I'm struggling to say definitively. It could just be because it's been worn longer than the Quince one. Naadam's fabric is thicker than Quince's, providing a bit more warmth and heft. With Naadam, the details and stats of the cashmere are hard to find, so it's difficult to compare them one-to-one with Quince and figure out exactly how good or how bad they are. Naadam claims pilling is normal due to external friction, and they recommend cleaning it with a cashmere comb to get rid of the fuzzballs. I've used this sweater for 5 years now and have never removed any of the pilling until today. It looks fairly worn, but after the combing it looks so much better. Additionally, the cuffs show signs of wear as they're stretched out because of me rolling my sleeves up. Again, with the construction, there's not much to talk about for a basic sweater. This one is made in China with Mongolian cashmere as well. The cuff and hem are similar to Quince's, but the collar feels a bit thicker and more premium.
Alright, so Naadam did bring cashmere mainstream, so we have to give them some credit there. They are pretty similar to Quince, but they do offer more sizes and more colors, so depending on those two factors, they may be the better option for you.
Alright, next up we have Asket. Asket is a favorite of mine and is known for their mission of making high quality basics in an environmentally friendly way. Based off previous experiences, although their pricing is on the higher end, the products usually compete with ultra high-end clothing in terms of quality. I got this light brown cashmere sweater in a size medium in the regular length. The fit on this sweater is a touch trimmer than the rest, but that's to be expected of most European brands. There's plenty of room under the pits, so the sweater doesn't feel constricting at all. It's slightly longer than Naadam and Quince, but Asket gives you the option of choosing between 3 different lengths to get your perfect fit. The thing that makes this sweater different from the rest is the fabric. It's made of recycled cashmere. While this makes it a bit tough to compare this objectively to the rest, the process Asket uses ensures no corners are cut. They partner with a mill in Italy that takes old sweaters and reverts them back into yarn that is then used to knit the new ones. They ensure the end result gives you the same softness as virgin cashmere, but in a more sustainable way. Recycled cashmere is a bit shorter, so a tiny portion of lamb's wool is used for strength. So we end up with an end product that rivals the rest of the sweaters in this video, but at a significantly lower environmental impact. I'll leave a link in the description for some pictures of the recycling process I found on Asket's website. Coming in at 16 microns, this still puts Asket as a grade A sweater, but only barely. The sweater itself is made in Romania, but considering the yarn is recycled, it's pretty much impossible to know where the fabric and fibers actually originate from. Unboxing it for the first time, I was surprised it wasn't as soft as Naadam or Quince. It wasn't until I unboxed the Loro Piana one a bit later that I realized that Asket and Loro Piana one felt fairly similar. This makes me assume some sort of softening process was applied to the cheaper ones to give it that uber soft in-hand feel right out of the box. I'm assuming the higher end ones will gradually get softer as they're worn more and more. Construction wise, this felt more structured than the other two. The cuffs and hems were tighter, and the chunkier neck gives it the more elevated look and feel. I think this looks best with chinos or dress pants, whereas the others fit at home on a pair of well-worn denim.
Overall, I love this sweater, but is it $230 good? Let's go check out Loro Piana, the top of the top, to see if Asket made a higher end entry-level sweater or a bargain high-end sweater.
So Loro Piana is synonymous with cashmere and claims to be the world's largest cashmere manufacturer. But is this sweater worth a mortgage payment, and what makes it so expensive? Their process is practically vertically integrated, with Loro Piana themselves refining the fiber, making the fabric, and sewing the garments. They have their own farms, their own mills, and everything in between. Little information is given into the exact details of the fabric, but we do know that it's made from baby cashmere. One adult goat produces 250 grams of cashmere fiber, but a baby goat only produces 80, less than a third. The fibers the babies do produce are usually more fine and more soft than regular cashmere. It comes in at 13.5 microns instead of the normal 15 and is well into the upper end of grade A. That's about all the info Loro Piana gives us. So $2,200, baby cashmere, made in Italy by one of the most luxurious companies in the world. Everything was adding up for me to be fully prepared to be blown away by this sweater, and almost overhyped it in my head before it even arrived. I unboxed it and found it to be about the same softness as Asket, if not slightly softer. The fabric was very smooth with barely any flyaways compared to the others. The sweater has a relaxed fit and leaves a decent amount of room throughout. It's pretty long, hitting my upper thighs when pulled all the way down. The cuffs aren't too tight, but the double-lined bottom opening sits pretty close to the body. I love the added comfort of raglan sleeves, eliminating the shoulder seam. The attention to detail is second to none, and all the fabric lines up perfectly at the seams. The finishing on this is impeccable, as expected, with all the stitches and the contrast black detail running down the shoulders. This is the best cashmere gets and the absolute pinnacle of fabrics if you disregard vicuna. I'm sure other designers sell sweaters similarly priced, but with Loro Piana, at least you know you're getting the best quality fabrics and finishes versus others just slapping on an obnoxious logo on a cotton sweatshirt.
Alright, so as with most things, the law of diminishing returns still applies here. The sweater is 44 times the price of Quince's, and it isn't 44 times as good as they are. But it's still pretty damn great, so you see the confusion here.
Before we tally everything up, I want to thank NOMOS for collabing with me on this video. I've been into watches for as long as I can remember. When I was younger and didn't know too much about the intricacies, I saw a picture of the Tangente and fell in love with its minimal design and slim profile. I remember being in high school and being in the market for a new watch, but spending 4 figures on one wasn't even in the discussion. I came across an ad for a brand with a semi-similar design language to NOMOS, and ill-informed high school Asim didn't care too much about the movement, the build, the fit, or the finish as he did about the overall aesthetics. So, just a few days later, I was rocking a trusty Daniel Wellington as happy as can be. Fast forward 8 years, and to have the opportunity to work with a brand I've admired for so long is something I wouldn't have imagined even in my wildest dreams. NOMOS let me test drive their Tangente Neomatic and the blue gold dial for this video, and then gave me my very own personal NOMOS as a part of the collab. The manual wound movement is beautifully finished and rivals watches that cost many multiples more. This is actually my first open case back watch, so I've spent many hours staring into the movement. Speaking of the movement, it has a 43-hour power reserve and it's very satisfying to wind in the mornings. This Tangente clocks in at 38.5mm, but it wears a bit larger because of the slim bezels and long lugs. My wrist is 7.5 inches for reference, and it feels great on it, especially for a dress watch. Whether you dress it up with a 3-piece suit or dress it down with some shorts and a sweater, the classic design pairs beautifully with anything you throw at it. Overall, it's a well-made watch with a beautifully finished in-house movement and a design I love, coming in at a super competitive price for what it offers. Although that Daniel Wellington is long gone, with the broken crystal, the finishing coming off, and a dead battery, I'm sure high school me would be stoked to know that a NOMOS finally made its way into the collection. So 4 sweaters and a ton of money later, here's what I concluded. This isn't one of those items where splurging gives you significantly better design or quality. The Loro Piana might be the best sweater I've ever touched, but it's not worth $2,000, even if you have the disposable income to justify it. Personally, if I was in the market for a cashmere sweater, I would take a mixed approach. If you're getting a neutral color that you'll be wearing a lot, on its own or layered, I would splurge for the Asket one. I think it looks more polished and it would age better after a few years of wear than the cheaper options. For the colors you will only wear a few times a year, there's absolutely no reason you need to spend more than Quince. You're getting decent quality, a ton of colors, and a super soft sweater at a fraction of the price. If you live in a colder climate, I think Naadam is worth the slight upcharge as it's a slightly thicker sweater. If you just want the best of the best and price is not an issue, go with Loro Piana, then Asket, then Naadam, then Quince. The quality does go up with price, but just marginally once you get past the $200 mark. I think majority of people would be happy with any of these, so just buy what your budget allows. Thanks again for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.